Welcome to the Jerry Pitre Show, your go-to podcast for everything in the world of collectible cards and sports memorabilia. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just getting started, we dive deep into the stories, the history, and the trends shaping the market. From iconic rookie cards to rare sports artifacts, join us as we explore the fascinating intersection of sports and collecting. Let's dig into the treasures that tell the story of legends. Episode 4 featuring Only Waifu Cards.
Hey,
What's up?
what's up? What's up?
Man,
Thanks
this
for
is
having
a
me.
longtime homie, longtime friend. He's kind of my phone a friend for everything as far as TCG goes. So I've just felt that this would make for an interesting conversation. Jason, let's give a little brief introduction to yourself.
My name is Jason Wilson. You can call me Jason, JJ, Jace. Just don't call me Jason Poo. I will smack you. Um, I've been collecting since 2020, just like everybody else. COVID basically brought out the collecting in me, but I've been playing card games since I was like 6, 7. First got into Yu-Gi-Oh, so on and so forth. Uh, I just found an enjoyment and a passion for it for the most part. Um, that's really about it. It was more or less my friend Alex who was telling me about it. And, Evo was very popular at the time and it was widely abundant. And so we will always go get Evo packs, just open them, see if we can pull a Charizard, so on.
Awesome. Now, one of the other reasons I really wanted to bring Jason on is for his day job. He literally works at a card shop. And I just thought, that would be a super interesting, kind of experience to tell. And,
There we go.
I think that you get a perspective on this hobby that most people only dream of. So you kind of lightly glossed on it, like the 2020 was the time that you got into the hobby. You said,
I mean, collecting, yes. I've always.
all right. So Jason, you kind of lightly brought it up on how you got into the hobby. You want to give us kind of a more in depth, like how did you get into the hobby?
I mean, of course, like I said, I've always been a player since I was like 6, 7, playing Yu-Gi-Oh and everything like that. But I don't know. I guess collecting, because I was a player before, was kind of just an easy pickup. So it was just more or less actually going out, buying product, seeing the market, seeing how everything's doing. And then that's how I also got interested in grading cards, so on and so forth. It's just a lot. Just more or less, COVID definitely brought out the collector side of me.
That's wonderful. And that is kind of the experience that I had very similarly. It wrote me back into collecting. Now, how long have you been working at the card shop?
So, Pokey Town, Pokey Collect, whatever you want to call it. I've been working there since February of 21. So I've been working there for over 3 years now.
Now, you mentioned you play. What games do you play as far as card games go?
You want me to go over all of them or just a handful of them?
Hit the big ones. I mean,
So,
I think you give a perspective that a lot of people don't have because in this hobby, I meet so many guys who literally they just go, "Yep, I buy, I sell," and the writing on the Pokemon cards means absolutely nothing to them. So it's
of course,
interesting
of
to hear
course.
a perspective of somebody who actually plays.
Mhm. So I play Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, Union, Arena, Universes, Lorcana, White Wars, um, Flesh and Blood, Digimon, One Piece. I can keep going on and on. But I basically play all the main ones, even some of the dead ones like Force of Will. I know how to play it.
So as far as competitive gameplay, like have you gotten into like like a world kind of event? Have you like ranked up high enough?
So back in 22, me and my friends, we go by a team. We're called Team LTE. So we got our name because back in 21, we went to a regional, and it was hilarious because we lost. We hella lost. So I'm not even gonna lie about that. We got destroyed. But we went to Longhorn right after it. Met this guy. I think his name was Nathan or Nathaniel. I can't even remember. And he took care of us. And so after we sat down, ate some good food, uh, the people who won the event literally came up after they won and was like, "Man, y'all look like y'all lost the event." And we did. So that's how we got the name Team LTE. LTE standing for lost the event.
That's fair. That's fair. So, since you actually work in a card shop, like, what do you think are like the top three hottest games to play right now?
I mean, of course, it will forever and always be the main three: Pokemon, Magic, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Unfortunately, it will always be those three. Lorcana is definitely making a name for itself, and so is One Piece. But of course, with One Piece, it's more or less like a money grab. All the cards are very expensive. You go to an event, all you have to do is participate, and you'll probably get this $300-400 card. But yeah, literally, Pokemon, Magic, and Yu-Gi-Oh will always be on top just for playing card games at almost all the card shops.
So, I got an interesting question for you. Out of the big three, who is the worst smelling group?
What Yu-Gi-Oh? There's not even a question.
It's so funny. I've had so many buddies who actually play cards, and we get to that kind of type of question, and they're like, "Oh my god, the Yu-Gi-Oh players are the absolute worst." Apparently, I think it was Yu-Gi-Oh that actually made a rule that said if your body odor was enough, like they could kick you out of the game just from stinking too much.
Yes, yes. They will literally DQ you, and depending on how far away your hotel room is, they will probably just make you get a round two, round three loss, so on and so forth.
That's that's sad and hilarious at the exact same time. So, since you've been a collector for so long, like it doesn't have to be like value wise, but like what's the most significant card to you in your own personal collection?
So I guess the most significant will probably be uh it's a White Schwartz card. It is. It's one of my favorite characters, and it's from a Hero anime, quintessential quintuplets. It's a signature card by her name is Nino Nakano, and so the card is roughly around $500-600 right now because it is a very competitive card, I guess I could say, in the card game, anyways. And I got it signed by the English voice actor and got it graded. It's a PSA 10 and an Auto 10. It's staying in my collection basically forever.
That's so sick. That's so sick. Um, yeah, I think it's always interesting to ask people like what their most sentimental thing is because so many people are just like they list the highest valued item they own, and then I've met other people and they're like, oh, it's like $3, but it means the world to me. So
Mhm.
it's a super interesting kind of start. So since you work at a card shop, since you play competitively, like where do you see like the market going for like the TCG world?
And so I guess I could say it depends on the card game because Pokemon, how I put it, quite literally the big three in card games, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, and Pokemon, they do something that the others can't do properly. So, what I mean by that is literally the big three. So, Magic has Commander format, which is probably the best format any card game has ever made. Yu-Gi-Oh has the best draft format, and then Pokemon has collectability. So just because it's playable doesn't mean it's always desirable or the most expensive or anything like that. So it just depends on the card game. So like Yu-Gi-Oh, the more playable the card is, the more expensive the card is. Same thing with Magic, but with Pokemon, it's more or less just how hard is the card to pull, how pretty the card looks, everything like that. So I constantly tell people who come into the card shop, um, the unfortunately in Pokemon, the prettier the card, the better the card.
Um, so that's like your full arts, kind of things like that. Like what is it? Double rares now that they have things like that.
Yeah. So like of course there's certain cards like Teal Mask, Ogre Pond, Terapagos, everything like that. They're playable and so they're like 13, $14 or anything like that. But you also have like prime example like Carmen from Twilight Masquerade or Greninja from Twilight Masquerade. Greninja's pushing 275, 280, somewhere around there. Carmen's like $100 card. And they both don't see play. They're just very pretty.
That's fair. That's fair. Now, in the world of playable, like one of the things that I've noticed is that Pokemon has a new set often. I feel like Magic has a new set often. Um, on the Loricana, like are they taking that same kind of approach? I kind of see Loricana put something out and then that's it, and then they put something else out and that's it. Versus like Pokemon, it seems like every month there's a new set.
Yeah, I mean, Lorcana is also doing that same thing. I think it's like that 3 to 4 month window that they have a new set released. So I think all sets except for like Weiss and Yu-Gi-Oh are doing that just because Weiss and Yu-Gi-Oh they have a lot more that they can do. So they release a set like at least once a month, which is a lot.
So as a guy who's playing and building decks, right? Like
Mm.
how often do you have to reconfigure your deck? Because I mean, it seems like in the Pokemon world, it's like a new set comes out and then there's a new tactic or there's a new meta. Like as somebody who's actually paying to build decks, I mean, it doesn't seem cheap. How do you navigate that?
Uh, as bad as it sounds, I don't for the most part. I stick with one deck and then I just try to get the grasp of something else just because it is very much so very taxing and rent is not cheap. So quite literally, I can't have all the meta decks all the time. So I just have to pick and choose.
No, that's totally fair. That's totally fair. So, I know that you do a lot of grading, right?
Mm.
Kind of what trends are you seeing in the grading world right now?
So everybody wants to be a grader. Everybody wants to grade cards and everything like that. But of course, I guess I could say my boss more or less taught me this. Not just because it's expensive doesn't mean that it will always sell. So some of the cheaper cards, so say like your bulk Vs or like V Maxes or anything like that, as long as they're still desirable, then it will probably sell. So say if you have like the Moonbreon, right? It's already like $900, right? Nobody's gonna pay that much. Nobody really has that much just lying around. And then you go get it graded and it gets a 10. Now it's more expensive. Nobody wants to even pay for the $900, and now you're making it more expensive to like 15, $1,600. Still nobody's gonna buy that.
Yeah, I would say that makes sense, honestly. I see a lot of these guys going to these big shows and their whole entire case is filled up with, you know, Moonbreon to tens, the Mario Pikachu's to 10, just super high end stuff. And you see them at 2-3 shows, and it's like they might sell one or two things. Versus like kind
Mhm.
of my tactic is like the $50 to $500 range, because I feel like you know not everybody has $500, but you're gonna run across a few guys that bang, here you go. Like I think that's good advice. So like when you're grading, like what brand do you like to grade with? And like, I
So
know it's different for each particular thing.
yeah. So at first I was probably gonna say Beckett. That would probably be my go-to if I could do it. But just as of recently, tag grading has been very, very good. The slab looks amazing, very transparent. You scan the QR code, it tells you basically everything that's wrong with the car. They have very much so done their research on just about everything. God love the statistics.
Yeah, I'll say that I was really impressed by the tag as far as, they give the little report on your edges, your corners, the surface. And I think there's been a few other companies that like made an attempt to have something similar, but I feel like Tag's kind of done it the best.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, if you can hit the black label with Beckett, that's the king of all kings.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's what everybody is shooting for at this point.
Now, as a guy who's done a bunch of grading, have you hit a black label yet? Because I've never. I mean, I've never even owned one.
So I have hit a black label. I sent in one card and it was just on a whim and got a black label. I took a picture of it, posted on my Instagram. So it's currently still up there on my Instagram. But yeah, one card, one black label. It was great. I no longer have it because I sold it, but I wish I did, unfortunately.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Like, so the idea with this show is like to kind of teach the novice, like who's coming in with zero knowledge, like how to do well. When you run across that scenario of like you grade, you hit a black label, would you suggest to people like immediately flip it? Do you hold it? Like how do you kind of do that?
So, I mean, you also, I guess I could say with a black label or anything like that, you have to, well, let me just put it this way. Grading in general, you have to talk to yourself and think to yourself, why are you grading the card? Are you grading it for sentimental value or are you trying to grade it to resell? If you're trying to grade it to resell and you get a black label, yes, I'll probably say flip it almost immediately. Um, if you're just trying to grade it for sentimental purposes or anything like that, I still say, unfortunately, you would probably have to look at the market because some point in time you will probably say, I don't want this card anymore. Let me sell it. Something like that. So it's more or less like, why are you grading it? What's the purpose of grading it? So on and so forth. But me personally, just depending on the card, I'll probably say flip the black label almost immediately.
No, I mean, I think that's totally fair. Um, I would probably give that same advice. And I'm very much kind of a if a brand new set's come out and you hit the black label, I would almost say it's better to flip it while it's the hot new shiny topic versus holding for 6 months and the value drops. I mean, there's a few things that like the Moonbryon, something like that. Like if you hit a black label on that, I think that there is some longevity. But there's so
Mm,
many, especially in the world of Pokemon. I feel like the longer you have it, just kind of the further it slides down the scale of value.
of course, of course. I mean, but then again, Moonbryon and a black label is like 4 grand. I'll probably just outright sell it. That if anybody has 4 grand lying around, let me hold it. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm with that. I'm with that. So, you know, talking about like popular series, like you know, anime and like cards are kind of like making this awesome crossover. Like, what's your thoughts on like the One Piece stuff? Because I mean, I know there's so many people who are just diehard One Piece fans that have nothing and no interest in cards. Like,
Mhm.
do you see them like kind of further connecting dots with other series, or does like One Piece have kind of its own like special juju to it? Like, what's your thoughts and opinions?
So, I mean, like, One Piece and Dragon Ball, of course, they have their own standalone card games because they are very popular IPs. And so that's why I guess Union Arena, Bandai made Union Arena because it basically gives light and it gives loves to all the other animes that Bandai has control over that they don't want to give to anybody else for the most part. And so it's basically Weiss Schwarz, but for shonens. That's basically what it is. So, I mean, One Piece, it's it's good in its own right, but at the same time, like I said, it's very much so a cash grab. You can go participate in the tournament, get $300, $400 card. Not do well, but you made $400 off a $30 entry, something like that.
So, if I was a new person and I want to play a card game to just strictly make profits, are you saying like One Piece is kind of the best tactic for that? Like you know,
I mean, yes, but also no, just because, of course, just like every other card game, except for Pokemon, they will give you cards that are worth this much, but you also have to sell them to make that much. Pokemon, if you do well, you just get the cash right then and there. So, I mean, beginner friendly, I'll definitely give it to Pokemon. And just progressively doing well, I'll probably also have to give it to Pokemon just for the simplicity of the game.
we'll see. I think Pokemon has like an online version that you can kind of learn and start playing, right?
Hmm.
Now, was it One Piece or Loricana that had something similar, and then the official brand went after the app that was teaching people kind of how to play? Which one was that?
That was Lorcana. It was called Pixelborn.
So, on the Loricana with Pixelborn, do you see them kind of like linking up to make something, or is it they're just going to kind of keep chasing brands down that are making their own little side thing?
Honestly, because of how well Pixelborn did, I can see them definitely doing something and making something out of it. I don't know if they're in the works of doing that actually right now, but I know they will definitely probably do something with that.
Yeah, I had a friend who was playing, and I think that was Pixelborn was how he learned. He goes, "Oh, I don't have to pay anything for a deck. I can get in here and learn, kind of learn. This is what I should buy. This is what I should not buy." Because I think that's probably the scary for like someone who doesn't know how to play. Like, there are so many options. Like, if I'm a
Mhm.
new player looking to get educated, like, kind of what's the best route to get educated?
Well, it of course depends on the game. Pokemon, there's a lot of cool things that you can do. The Battle Academy, you can use the code cards that you get at the back of the packs, PTCGO. Lorcana, you had Pixelborn, but they have this new thing. It's called the Gateway. It's basically the Battle Academy for Lorcana. Um, Yu-Gi-Oh! You have Master Duel, which is probably the only way I say you should play Yu-Gi-Oh! Just because it's a money sink and the return on investment is not the greatest, unfortunately. Um, Magic, MTG Arena, so on and so forth.
Nice. Yeah, because I was gonna say, I think that's kind of one of those things. Is like there's so many different decks. There's always evolving meta kind of gameplay. Um, are those like, as stupid as it sounds? Are those ways free for people to learn?
Yes. So, MTG Arena will give you like 5 starter decks, and then you can literally just go in. They're already competitive enough, and you can actually win games off of those starter decks. Master Duel, it literally teaches you step by step on how to play the game. It also has a solo mode where you play against a CPU. They give you a random deck. They tell you how to play it step by step, and then keep going. PTCGO, same thing. They just give you pre-made decks. They're already competitive. You can just go in, rank, do your thing.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I'm really just trying to kind of like provide resources for like our new and up and coming people. And, I see a lot of people transitioning from the sports card world into the TCG world. And a lot of those guys have been like, I like these because I can actually play a game with them. And,
Mhm.
Charizard can't tear an ACL. He's not going to pull a Joey B and, hurt his wrist and be out for a season, So
Of course, of course. I
I think
mean,
that it's a very interesting transition that kind of we're seeing right now in front of us because a lot of these guys. So I'll leave his name out because he'll come out later on and post it. But I've got a friend who sets up at these shows and he's been a big time sports card dealer. Here recently, I went and saw him at a show and he was like, he had no sports cards. It was all Pokemon. I said, hey, bro, I mean, I like the showcases. It's sick, but what's up with the sports? He goes, I'm not taking the risk anymore. He's like, Charizard can't tear an ACL, And then the other thing he said was like, the TCG market makes a lot more sense to moms. He's like,
mm,
I'm trying to sell to mom because you can't sell, a T. Higgins, Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson. That doesn't make sense to mom. But mom gets Charizard, mom gets Pikachu. Like, I think TCG has a very interesting aspect to it that sports doesn't offer at all. So, with your experience in the shop, kind of like what's some things that you've seen people do and start like in the hobby in an incorrect way?
so a lot of people, like somebody, he literally sold his entire collection, and then he sold the rest of his collection not too long ago. And he said that he potentially wants to get back into it, but he wants like this card, this card, this card, and this card, right? So the one thing people always do wrong is that they will constantly go for the most expensive card almost immediately, just because they have the money right then and there, which is probably the most inconsistent way of going about it, just because it's I don't know, it's so stupid. It really is. So always just, start slow because you will burn out immediately if you just speed run through it.
I think that's totally fair. I think that's totally fair. I've seen a lot of guys, kind of very similar. They go, I've spent so much money. I'm just going to sell everything and quit. And then, 3 months later, you see them in there and it's like, oh, I want this $3,000 something. I want this $2,000 something. I'm like, whoa, buddy. Like, what happened to this whole F everything attitude that you had not too long ago? No, no, no. I'm good. I just want to jump back in. And it's like, I always kind of like promote, like, hey, you know, sell a few pieces, sell a few things that you just don't really love because out of everybody's collection, I'm sure when you hold your cards, go through your binder, what have you, you look and you go, that means something to me, right?
Hmm.
Put those cards aside. But all the stuff that's like, I don't care about this at all. Flip it, 100%. Now, what kind of tactics would you say that you see people do good and we could promote to the people?
I mean, It's a little awkward. So quite literally, somebody, I won't say his name, but he before Evo Skies got very expensive, right? He bought every single time he came in there, he will buy 10 to 20 packs of Evo Skies and just hold on to it. Hold on to it, held on to it. And this was probably like once a week for a few months now, right? And he was like, "Man, y'all have a Moonbreon. I really want to pull the Moonbreon." So he opens like some of his packs and pulls like two of them. And so now he just has Evo Sky packs and like two Moonbreons. And he's just like, "Well, I got it now." So mainly, I don't say sit on products, but take the gamble on sitting on product.
So that's interesting. That's interesting. If I was going to sit on product, would you go for, ETBs? Are you going for single packs? Are you going for, what's a best case kind of strategy on that?
Depends on the set. So if it's a special set, go for the ETBs. Go for the premium collections, the UPCs, everything like that. If it's, a standard, not a subset, go for the booster boxes. Hold on to those. Um, just something like that. So, prime example, the Evo Evolutions. Set sucks. 100%. Set is awful. But booster boxes are like $800 and ETBs are like 200 plus. So, I mean, come on now.
Well, and okay, for our listeners, those ETBs, those started at like 40, $50, right?
No, absolutely. Like they always start at 40, well, 30, 40, $50, whatever the case may be. And funny story, whenever I was first starting, I bought three ETBs of Evolutions from Walmart, and they accidentally put in the wrong price, so I bought all three of them for $30 because they were $10 a piece.
Let's go. Let's go. Had I noticed that price discrepancy, I would have bought the whole shelf. Yeah, $10 a
Uh,
piece, just as many as I can get.
no, of course,
Sir,
but
that shopping cart looks rather full. Oh, I've got a second one back behind me. Don't worry.
trust me, y'all are getting my money today.
Yes, one way or the other. So, as a collector, would you say right now that you're more product heavy? Are you more single heavy? Are you more graded heavy? Like, what's your kind of portfolio look like?
So I am very much so raw cards I do have a lot, but I am trying to get more into graded cards because the return on investment, the price difference, diff wow, what the hell am I trying to say? Anyways, the price goes
Difference.
up a
Yeah.
lot. The price goes up a lot more than just single cards, and it would just in general.
So I kind of agree with that. And then in another way, it's like if you don't hit the 10, like I see all the time where like a PSA 8 sells for less than a raw card.
Hmm.
So, I'm kind of in that weird spot of like, unless it absolutely looks beautiful, I almost just say leave it raw, really. Like going to the Moonbreon, for instance, right? Um, $700-800 is a raw card, right? That same card in a PSA 8, sometimes you'll see like 700, 650, whatever, right? And you're literally going, I could buy that, crack it out of the slab, and it's got a $200 price increase. So for anybody who's listening, don't just blindly grade anything because, it doesn't always work out. But I do tend to agree that I think that as far as like what the modern collector is looking for, everybody asks for graded product. I mean, now in the world of TCG, Like, for instance, my buddy just vended Collecticon, and he was telling me that a lot of people were asking for PSA slabs, but had no interest in CGC slabs. Um,
Mhm.
what do you guys see coming in the shop? I mean, are people bringing slabs from anybody, anywhere? Like, what are you seeing?
And so, I mean, of course, working at a card shop, um, I see a lot of people with PSA, and that's mainly because that is the only grading company anybody knows, just because it is the biggest. So, of course, all your PokeTubers or anything like that, they will say, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna send this off to PSA. Oh, I'm gonna send this off to PSA. I'm gonna get this graded by PSA." They don't say any other ones. They don't say CGC. They don't say Beckett. They don't say ARG, Tag, whatever the case may be. They always say PSA. So it's kind of ingrained in everybody's mind that PSA is the end all be all.
I would agree with that, and I think like Leonhardt's one of the only guys I've seen that's actually putting it out there. He's like, oh no, I grade with Beckett. Um, but yeah, I feel like a lot of people just go, oh, PSA is the end all be all. As a guy who's graded a bunch with PSA, I think it depends on the day, bro. It's like literally, it's like, did this guy's dog get run over? Because I'll send a perfectly good card that's like, looks beautiful, and you come back and it's a PSA 6, and you're just like, this has no whitening. This is, perfectly centered. Like, well, why did this get a 6? So, like, that's one of the things I do like with the tag grading. They're machine grading, right?
Yes. So everything is not to the naked eye. It's basically all AI, computer based, all that.
That's one of the things that really has sex appeal to me for tag grading is because, like I said, it's like you don't know if that guy's dog got ran over in the morning, his wife just divorced him, whatever, because it's like some of these items that I've literally seen where guys crack a PSA 6, do nothing to it, send it back to PSA, and it comes back a 10, and you're like, dog, why did I have to send this twice? So that's the appeal with the tag grading for me is literally you send it there and it's getting the number that it's going to get, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, of course, with tag, the number is very finite. It is tag grade because of such and such reason. It's not because of, oh, this person is blind in the left eye and has astigmatism in his right and he was grading it. Oh, it's a fucking 4 or something like that. No, it's literally a non-biased computer basically grading your card.
Now, do you see that kind of being the future of grading? Because that's one of the things that really I feel like the market's heading towards. I mean, I don't think it's just me having this experience of it's like, oh, dude's dog got kicked. He gave me a 4. Like, I think that's happening way more than it's not.
Oh yeah, I mean, I can definitely see it heading towards that way just because like just in general, PSA they're not the greatest and everybody knows that now. Just they are very inconsistent, as you may put it. They are very inconsistent with their grades. And of course, depending on the day, you may get a 7. And their whole gimmick is for you to crack it out of the slab and resubmit it.
I I feel like it's a gimmick as well. Yeah, I totally agree. It's literally it's the whole hey, it costs $100 to grade, but if you get a really good grade, we're going to charge you a premium for that grade. And it's like, whoa, didn't we agree on the whole I'm paying you $50 to grade this, and now that it gets a 10, you're going to charge me an extra $500? I mean, every time I've been upcharged, I definitely screamed like a girl and I was super excited to pay the difference, right? But
Hmm.
I don't want to use the phrase cash grab, but it kind of feels like it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, like, of course, at Poketown, we grade for people. Well, we send them off to get graded. And we used to do PSA and CGC before we, solely just did tag. And we charged basically $15 a card, and somebody sent in a Gengar VMAX alt art, and their $15 charge now turned into a $75 charge. And of course, we can't make them pay that, so we just lost like all that money just because they wanted to upcharge because it got a 10.
So that was PSA or tag?
It was PSA.
Yeah.
Good old PSA. Gotta love them.
You know, it's crazy, bro. I don't get it, man. Yes, if we've got an agreed upon this card's not going to be over $500, okay, but like when it grades a 10, like I've had cases where, hey, we're going to upcharge this guy, and then you look at the price discrepancy and you're like, bro, you said the limit was 500 and it's like $600. Now you're charging them an extra 150. You know what I mean? Like you're really eating into any margin that you just created. So
Yeah.
And that's where I see a company like Tag. What are your thoughts on SGC? Have you had any experience with SGC?
I haven't. I have experience with Tag, CGC, PSA, and Beckett. Any other grading company is completely beknownst to me. Like I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't think any other company does the upcharge. I mean, I know PSA, but I don't think Beckett does. I don't think does Tag do an upcharge or anything like that?
I know they do like, an upcharge technically for faster service. That's about it. They really don't do an upcharge at all, as far as I know.
Yeah, I mean, and listen, I'm totally for the upcharge on the express, like from door to door, 5 days, whatever.
Yeah.
Cool, that's Gucci. But the whole, oh hey, Jason, you hit a 10. We're gonna have to charge you another $75. Like what? You know.
Yeah,
So
it's a little silly.
so kind of what trends are you like? Have you seen any like surprising trends as far as like the anime stuff goes with collaborating with cards?
Um, you definitely have a wider audience definitely coming into the card games because not everybody wants to go after Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh or anything like that because they're technically animes, but not everybody wants to go after that, like Spy Family or like Attack on Titan, something like that.
Now, do you foresee like a situation where somebody's like competing with One Piece? Because really, as far as animes go right now, it really seems like it's like kind of One Piece or nothing. I mean, I don't think Lorcana counts as an anime, right? I mean, it's
I mean, it's Disney, it's their own thing.
yeah. But I mean, as far as the anime world, do you think that there's a world where anybody actually competes with with One Piece?
Like price value wise, or like
Like price value, gameplay, like that kind of thought.
so I guess gameplay, it would be Union. I mean, not Union Arena. It would be Fusion World. It's Dragon Ball Fusion World. They basically play the exact same. It's just one is One Piece, one is Dragon Ball. That's basically the difference. The only one that could compete with it price wise would be probably Union Arena, just because it has all those other anime IPs in it. It has the chase cards that everybody's looking for. It doesn't have the mangas, but it has those cool looking parallel alt arts, everything like that.
So I know you're not a sports guy, but recently Topps has kind of announced that they've gotten some IP rights to the Disney stuff.
Mm.
And they've kind of lightly discussed like a crossover. So, like, as a guy who's super deep into the TCG realm, Like, what kind of crossovers would you like to see? Because for one, I know you play fantasy. I know you're into
I mean,
sports. So, like,
okay, my bad.
no, hey, listen, I think there's a stigma with like these people think, oh, hey, they're only into TCG, so they have no interest in sports. And you guys are at the shop literally chopping it up about who got waxed on their fantasy league, So, I mean, I think, it's kind of interesting that it's like so many people put the stigma like, it's a bunch of nerds into Pokemon. It's like, no, dog, we watch football too. You know what I mean? Like, so what kind of crossovers would you like to see if we could meet, sports, anime? Right now, I think it's just Disney, but yeah, like what are your thoughts?
Uh, I oh man, I never even actually thought about that one. That one's oh man, that one's an
So
interesting
like
question.
one of the ones that I think would be interesting is I would love to like have that shot from the Olympics where Curry is shooting a three in Victor Wembanyama's face. I think that same shot, except for like Buzz Lightyear or something there, just banging a three out in front of Wembanyama's face would just be an awesome card. I mean,
I mean,
I feel like there's so many interesting takes that it could go.
it's so similar to that. Of course, will be the Pokemon on the football, basically. So like the Pikachu, the Eevee, Grookey, Scorbunny, Sobble, whatever. Um, on the football, the 2020 promo or something like that.
Yeah.
Those are pretty
And
cool.
football is soccer for our American listeners.
Yes, of course. You uncultured. My bad. So anyways, I guess something like that would be pretty cool with like let me say basketball card with Blaziken as point guard shooting a three, or you got what is it? Who like Machamp dunking the basketball? Something like that would be pretty cool. I will give you that.
Yeah, I've kind of played with the idea like specifically on like Machamp, like if he was like a Derrick Henry, like jumping over somebody with the football, it's just like there's so. I think with the crossover, there's so many cool things that could be done. Like as a fan who's a fan of both sports and TCG, I'm kind of really excited to see how it turns out. You know, so like for like back to the TCG world, where do you see like card shows, cons? Like if I'm a new collector, everybody's got eBay. Most people have whatnot. You know, why should I go to a con or a card show?
So basically, I would definitely, if you're buying cards or anything like that, I would definitely recommend going to card shows more than cons, because if you go to like an anime convention, anything like that, you're really there for the anime merchandise. Not everybody's going to be there and be like, oh, they have Pokemon cards. Let me go buy something. They go there for their anime merchandise, their signatures, and everything like that. When you go to a card show, you're specifically going there for basically in the name, the cards. Um, there's a lot of variety whenever you go to a card show. I know there's sports cards, there's Pokemon, there's a lot of just a lot of things, like even Funkos. If you're gonna try to buy some Funkos, go to a card show. You're probably gonna do better at a card show than a con. Maybe. I don't know, but some of the con prices on the Funkos are a little bit pricey.
I've heard and seen some similar where it's like I feel like you could have bought that same item at a card show, put a new sticker on it, taken it to a con, and made money.
Of
Now,
course.
one thing I will say that I feel is very interesting with the con versus the card show is at the cons, like nobody really price checks anything. It literally is just like people walk up to the table and go, "Oh, you've got $100 on that Funko. Would you do 95?" Versus like at a card show, you're gonna have some guy to go, The last one did 62. The one before that did 70, and another one did 50. Would you do $45? You know, I feel like more people are going to haggle you at a card show, where a con, like if you're set up and selling, literally people are just going to blindly walk up and go, oh, $100. Here's $100 bill. And like no argument or nothing. But I think the thing with like selling at a con is, and this is just my personal opinion, I feel like people are actually buying for themselves to keep versus the card shows. You know, a lot of people are going, I'm going to buy this for 50, put it on eBay for 100, and make a little bit of money on it, you know?
Mm-hmm. But like, not to mean, don't mean to cut you off or anything like that, but like, I will say some difference that I did see, of course, like you said, you know, once you go to a con and you buy something basically for yourself, the price is very firm, everything like that. And sometimes you don't even know if the card's fake or not, just because you're just buying it right then and there. If you go to a card show, there's a million and one different booths. If you have fake cards, everybody there will know.
Oh, at the con?
At the card show, basically.
Yeah. Well, you would think so. We had a case at one of our local shows. One of the vendors came in and he was had a special red Solo cup. We'll just leave it at that, right? And this little kid walks up and goes, "Hey, I'm going to sell you something," and like hands the guy something. And I forgot what full art it was, but basically it was like $100 card, right? And the vendor, you know, was sauced up and kind of didn't think nothing of it. Gives the kid $100. Well, come to find out, he didn't look at the card hard enough. It was one of those, you know, what did they call that? The Alibaba kind of Pokemon cards where they're just printing them on stuff. And, you know, a few of us guys who are actually into Pokemon is like, first off, dog, if this is the true full art, it's going to be textured. You're going to be able to feel it versus the smooth, shiny, really glossy. But yeah, I would also agree. I think you're going to, not experts, but you're going to have more knowledgeable people at a card show for sure.
Yeah. Like the last card show I went to, it was in Birmingham. And of course I was selling my waifu cards. So I was just getting a feel for, you know, being there, vending, everything like that. And my buddy right next to me, he was vending Pokemon. Somebody was trying to sell this one card, and I was like, "Hey, this card is fake." He was like, "How do you know?" I was like, "Well, it's supposed to have texture on it." And he was like, "Well, you're wrong because I just pulled this card and everything like that." I was like, "No, it's 100% fake." And so we were just having a bickering back and forth. And so he walked away and then came back and he was like, "You know what? I'm sorry about that. I just sold it." And I was like, "You're actually a POS."
I've been on the receiving end, and there's been a few times where I buy big giant lots and you get one or two things that are fake, but I always keep them. And when I set up at shows, one of the things I like to do is I put on a game for the kids. It's the spot a fake, win a prize. And I literally hand them a fake Pokemon card and a real one. I'm like, you can bend it, you can twist, just don't rip it, you know. But because a lot of times just on the hand feel alone, you can feel the difference and go, oh, that one's not right, you know. And there's other context clues and stuff. But yeah, I would never turn around and sell one. I've got probably 6 to 10 fake Pokemon cards right now, and I would never sell any of them because, for one, I don't want to get a bad reputation. I don't want to go, yeah, that's the guy who sold me the fake Pokemon card. Like, no, I would much rather use that as an educational piece to go, yep, you feel the difference on this. Trust your hands. Close your eyes. Which one feels right? And,
of course.
I always love the reaction from the moms. They're like, oh, my God, little Billy, how did you know? And you hand them to mom and go, all right, trust your hands. And she goes, they feel the same to me. And little kid goes, no, mom, this feels like a piece of shit. This is fake. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, I'm trying to keep a good reputation. There's no way I could ever sell the face, So,
Of course.
um, well, man, hey, I really appreciate you taking the time. I think, this has been a really great conversation. I think one of the things that I really like is that you competitively play. You understand meta, you understand gameplay. Um, kind of give us some advice. Like, just remember this show is just for the novice who knows nothing, and we're trying to educate the masses. Like, how do I find success in this hobby?
I mean, so I guess I could say to find success in the hobby, you have to know exactly what you're looking at for the most part. You actually have to have a little bit like some back and forth knowledge. Got to do a little bit of research yourself, everything like that. Um, and I guess I could say like the number one thing that I constantly do that a lot of people don't do is that I'm constantly watching the market. I'm constantly looking at price changes, um, conditions, spotting fakes, everything like that. I'm constantly doing something. I'm never just sitting down and just relaxing for the most part. And I am currently have a sinus infection, but oh well, I'm getting over that. But yeah, it's more or less just finding your groove, understanding what exactly you're looking for, what you're trying to get into, everything like that.
So, I'm glad you kind of brought that price change. Like, what tools are you using for price change and stuff like that?
So, of course, if you have English cards, you know, just the bread and butter, just go with TCG Player. It will basically have all the statistics that you will ever need. Another good one is price charting. And then there's a cool app called Collector, Colletr. But yeah, that's a pretty good one as well. If it's graded cards, just go off of eBay recent sold. Don't go off of what's listed. Go off of most recent or just sold listings or anything like that. If it's Japanese cards, you can also do eBay, but there's also actual Japanese websites that you will have to translate into English, which is UUTE, which is a very popular one, and Card Rush.
Awesome. Awesome. So, where can the people find you? What platforms are you
Uh,
on?
so basically on almost all of them, but the main one that I use is Instagram at onlywaifucards. You can find me there. Um, you can find me on Whatnot. I haven't streamed in over a year, so don't follow me, please.
What's the next card show you're attending or setting up at?
So I have no idea. I am still trying to look into that. I apparently need to go on vacation, so I definitely need to figure that one out.
Well, there's a Fanatics Fest coming up in Orlando, and maybe we can drag you to that with us.
I know Nelson and Jacob really want me to go to a Nashville one, so I'll definitely keep those in mind.
Oh, you definitely got to go to the Nashville one. That was where I just recently had picked up a first edition Charizard, and I got such a good deal on it. Like, it's if you come with some knowledge and a little bit of cash, you'll have a good time. Well,
Oh
hey
yeah,
man,
hopefully.
hey, I'm telling you, listen, you can always split a hotel with us. Me and Amani go to most of those shows. I always bring an inflatable mattress, so we make room for you.
Oh yeah.
Well, hey man, I appreciate you coming out, and like I said, I think this is a super interesting conversation, and I think a lot of people are going to get a lot of like value out of this.
No, of
So
course.
everybody, go follow him on every platform. Only waifu cards. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatnot. Go follow his whatnot, even though he doesn't think you should. We can force him and twist his arm to get him to stream.
No,
Every
no.
everybody, thank you for listening. just remember, this is the Jerry Pitre Show, your go-to podcast for everything in the worlds of collectible and sports memorabilia. And, thanks for joining. Like, follow, share, subscribe.